on the 9th of November in 1989. A big wall in the city of Berlin that had separated the capitalist West from the communist East was finally knocked down. Then, just 2 years later, something even bigger happened. The USSR collapsed, which ended a tense period of the Cold War. Now let's fast forward to today, and Europe is still split into two separate groups. On one side, there are the countries in the East that used to be part of the communist group, and on the other side, there are the countries in the West that were once powerful colonial powers. It's interesting to know that over the last 30 years, the countries in Eastern Europe have grown a lot, even though when they started out, it was a tough start. Research shows that their economies have been growing by about 3.6% every year on average in the last 3 decades. In comparison, the Western countries' economies have only grown by a little bit over 2% on average during the same amount of time. So how did the East grow so much despite its difficult beginning? Stay tuned until the end of this video as we will be discussing all of these reasons. But before we do move forward, we kindly request that you subscribe to our channel for future videos. For the purpose of this video, we're going to be defining Eastern Europe as per the United Nations classification, which is to include Romania, Bulgaria, Poland, Czechia, Hungary, and Slovakia. On the other hand, major Western Europe contains Germany, Austria, the Netherlands, Belgium, Luxembourg, and France. So, why did the East grow so quickly? Well, the most obvious reason is the fall of the Soviet Union. After that, they changed from a planned communist economy to a free market capitalist system. For example, let's start with Poland. After the USSR collapsed, the Polish government made big changes with something called the Balcerowicz Plan in 1990. This plan involved doing a lot of different things to change the economy as quickly as possible. The plan was also known as shock therapy, as it aimed to swiftly transform the economy by reducing inflation, decontrolling prices, eliminating shortages, seizing subsidies to state enterprises, and also liberalizing foreign trade. But you know what's kind of surprising? It wasn't the big state-run companies becoming private that caused most of the growth. Instead, it was actually the incredible rise of many new private businesses in Poland that made a substantial difference. These businesses ended up creating jobs, making money, and made customers very happy, especially in the grocery sector. So here's the thing, before 1990, the Polish shopping experience was truly horrendous. In state-run food shops, products were hidden behind the service counters. People had to stand in long lines and couldn't even look at the products before buying them. But in 1990, a Polish company named Szymek Okmes decided to make shopping better. They brought in the Western supermarket concept where customers could freely roam around and pick what they wanted. So no more waiting in lines. The supermarkets also now stayed open 24/7, which was different from how things usually were done. In just 2 years, Szymek Okmes opened 5 stores and made millions of dollars in sales. And it wasn't just this, many other businesses also followed suit. Thanks to the Balcerowicz Plan and these changes, Poland's economy instantly started booming. The GDP per person absolutely skyrocketed in the past 3 decades. From 2,500 in 1990 to over 16,000 in 2020, which is a fantastic growth of over 530%. Plus, the country's exports also increased significantly, from 10 billion in 1990 to a huge 260 billion in 2020. The second reason why Eastern Europe grew so much is because some of its countries joined the EU. In 2004, the EU got bigger by adding countries like Poland, Czechia, Slovakia, and Hungary, and then later Romania and Bulgaria in 2007. Being part of the EU had some instant benefits. They could easily trade with other EU countries, have access to EU funding, and attracted investments from Western companies. Hungary is a great example of this. After joining the EU, Hungary's economy grew a bunch, and it received a ton of funding, around 3 billion euros every year. The third reason is something called FDI, or foreign direct investment. FDI is when a company or person from one country invests in a business or project in a different country. After the Soviet Union fell and Eastern Europe joined the European Union, big Western companies found Eastern Europe more attractive. They liked the big workforce numbers, the low labor costs, and good business conditions with fewer unions and lower taxes. Let's look at Slovakia for some examples of other details. Slovakia's economy struggled after the Soviet Union collapsed. They mostly exported metallurgy, heavy engineering, and arms to other socialist countries. But when those markets up and disappeared in 1989, unemployment went up to 13%. It took Slovakia about an entire decade to rebuild its production and start exporting more to Western countries. In 1999, Slovakia finally began negotiating to join the EU, which piqued interest in foreign investors, and FDI then went up a bunch. Big companies like Volkswagen, Kia Motors, PSA, Jaguar, Land Rover, and soon Volvo all set up factories there. Nowadays, Slovakia is the world's biggest car producer per person, making over 1 million cars every year with only a population of 4 million people. It wasn't just Slovakia that saw this success either. The whole Eastern European region saw a big increase in net FDI over the last 20 years. Our next reason is going to be the growth of the IT sector, which is noticeable in all of Eastern Europe. Romania stands out as home to the most IT professionals in this region. The tech boom in Romania started in the early 2000s thanks to the government offering near zero income tax rates to tech workers. Firstly, they made sure everyone could access fast internet. Then the government provided computers to 200,000 poor families. Secondly, they invested in the internet and e-learning to develop quality online learning resources as soon as possible. Schools got 10 to 25 computers with internet access, and the student-to-computer ratio was better than the global average. Thirdly, the Romanian government put a bunch of money into universities to develop IT-related programs and facilities. As a result of this move, Romania's technology sector made a huge contribution to its GDP, rising from over 4.5% to nearly 7% in the last 4 years. Now, the fifth reason is the growth of Eastern European startups. Venture capital investments in Eastern Europe went up a lot, reaching 3.5 billion euros in 2021, up from only 0.6 billion euros in 2012. And Czechia is the leader in raising venture capital for startups. Czechia has a strong economy, a friendly environment for businesses, and also a thriving entrepreneurial scene. Studies even rank Czechia as the second best country in Central and Northern Eastern Europe for startups, just behind Estonia. Also, a country's location on the world map can be crucial to its economy. Many Eastern European countries have very strategic positions. Take example Bulgaria, which is at the center of important economic crossroads. Its closeness to Turkey gives it access to the Middle Eastern trading network, and it serves as a significant transit and distribution hub for Russian oil and gas entering through Europe. Now, let us compare the economic growth of Eastern European countries versus Western EU countries. In terms of GDP, Germany, France, and the Netherlands are absolutely at the top, while Poland is the first Eastern European country that's in fourth place overall. But this comparison isn't very fair because Germany has a much bigger population. If we look at GDP per capita, Luxembourg, the Netherlands, and Austria are all in the lead. So there's still a clear gap between Western and Eastern Europe, with GDP per capita dropping significantly from about 33K in France to 18,000 in Czechia. If we check the growth figures from the last 10 years, Eastern countries are dominating all of the top spots. However, this doesn't exactly mean Eastern Europe will take over Western Europe anytime soon. They are still behind in many factors, including their growth slowing down as they get closer to the Western levels. The population is getting older quickly as well, and fertility rates are very low, which is a huge concern. Brain drain is also a relatively big problem, with professionals moving from East to the West. So in a nutshell, the East has given the West some competition over the years. From the rise of the IT industry to the growth of private businesses, and from tech startups to geostrategic location, the East has capitalized very well. Maybe if they focus on removing corruption, ensuring good governance, and working on demographic issues, they can then flourish even more. And now we invite you to share your thoughts in the comments below. Please do subscribe to the channel if you like our content. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.